Hello and welcome to the TT Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk to one person from the world of the TT races to discuss their lives, their journeys, their ambitions, and their relationship with the greatest motorsporting event in the world. I'm Chris Pritchard, and alongside me, the best co-host in the world, Steve Plater.
I love it when you say that.
You are. Well, I've got no one to compare you against, but you know. So in my eyes, you are. Coming up today, a man who's slightly younger than you, I believe, Dave Molyneux. You're looking forward to...
I must be tired. I can't think of an answer. Hey, no, what a great fella. In all,
absolute legend.
Massive TT history. Not scared of giving his opinion, whether it be to somebody on the street or to an official. He really isn't, and I like him. I like him a lot.
He's not even sat next to you, and you've said that.
No.
Shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Today's guest needs very little in the way of introduction, and reeling off his stats doesn't do him justice at all. But here they are anyway. 17 times a TT winner. Sorry to say this, Dave, I was still in nappies when you were ripping around the TT course for the first time.
I should think so.
Me too. His career spans 5 decades, and it doesn't look like he'll be stopping anytime soon. He is the most successful sidecar driver ever, and the 4th most successful TT competitor of all time, alongside Joey Dunlop, John McGuinness, Michael Dunlop, and obviously Ian Hutchinson. What makes this achievement even more amazing to me is that the sidecars often only get 2 races during race week. He's the first driver to lap over 110 miles an hour. He's won on all 4 of the main Japanese manufacturers. He's won all but one of his victories on his own DMR chassis. And the list goes on and on and on. We could be here all day just reeling all the facts off. But that doesn't even come close to scratching the surface of this man. And I can't wait to hopefully just sit back, relax, and enjoy some tales of TTs gone by. As we welcome Dave Molyneux to the TT Podcast. Dave, you all right?
Yeah, thanks. Nice to be here.
Good. It's nice. Hey, it's nice to have you here. This is going to be an interesting question. Obviously, we start the TT Podcast with the same question to all the drivers, all the riders. And you'll have experienced it more than a lot, and you'll have seen different variations of this, but it's that tap on the shoulder. You're rolling up to the start line, you're in no man's land, the visor comes down, you get that hand on that shoulder. What thoughts are going through your head in that moment?
Right, well, when I first started, it was an unmentionable thing. Yeah, pretty.
So go back to that time. What was it like the first time?
Well, it was I would be asking myself why I was there. What do I actually really want to be here? I did ask myself that question on many occasions, and just got that wound up about it. But as time went on, and I got old and old and older, it's just
no, not older. Experience, more experience.
I like sitting there now because I kind of think, well, this is what it's all about. This is why we've spent 50 weeks building up to it in the garage, busting a gut, trying to think of something new, something. Will it work? Won't it work? And the more you get of it, the better it gets, But the heading off down Bray Hill is on the first night, first practice is pretty damn good.
Yeah. Still get nervous during it then, or has it changed?
Yeah, nervous. Yeah, really? I do. Just like, and that's good because I keep thinking, now this is what makes you feel young.
Yeah.
And still having that adrenaline buzz, and
Keeps you on your toes.
Does? Yeah, definitely.
See, Steve, you should still be...
you should still be riding.
Everybody that comes in says the same. Yeah. Go on, Steve, have a go.
So, let's go back before that. Obviously you build your own chassis, and as Chris just said on the intro, there's only one TT you've won that hasn't been on your chassis. But what's your background? Where do you come from? An engineering background?
Well, I went into apprentice mechanic at the age of 15 because that's what my dad did. I even went to the same garage to get the job, and I hated it. 6 months in, I absolutely hated it. I hadn't been given any more than a brush the floor or go and get the pies from the shop job to do, or clean the toilet. Yeah. Seriously. So I went to the foreman one day and I just said, I've been here 6 months. When am I going to get hold of a spanner or a screwdriver or something, hold an exhaust pipe up for a mechanic? You'll be told when you can do that. And I gave it about 2 hours thought, and I said, that's not good enough for me. I'm off. And so I just chucked the towel in. I threw the towel in, hitched a lift from Peel to Ramsey. I went to another garage and said, would you give me an apprenticeship? And he said, yeah, I'll give you an apprenticeship. Start at 8 on Monday morning. If you're not here, don't bother coming in again. That was the first thing he said. And the first job I got to do was change a clutch on a Vauxhall Viva van. So he said, put it on the ramp on Monday morning, just get on with it. So it was one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
But as time went on, over the next 10 years, I just chose jobs that I thought would go well to being an independent bike racer, you know, sidecar rider, whatever you want to call it. But so I ended up doing car body shop, picked up spraying and then welding. I asked the guy who was top welder there one day, would you teach me how to weld? He said, no, the gear's here. Come in at lunch hour and spend your own time teaching yourself to weld. So I did.
Brilliant.
And within a month, I was the man at the top doing, at about 19 years old, doing all the welding in the body shop. So that came easy. That lasted a couple of years, and then I think I'll go and work in a boatyard.
What's boatyards got to do with sidecars?
Fiberglass, mould work.
Right, fair point.
So
yeah.
all the body work that I make and the moulds are all been taught from that.
Yeah.
And it was a great job. It was badly paid, but I got 2 years out of it, where I learned all the skills of plug making, mould making, vacuuming, all sorts of things. It was a cracking job.
So all this was sorry, Chris, it was a foresight and insight into
being able to do
the
my own
future
thing.
of you developing your own things.
Because and then by the time I got to the late 80s, I was sort of, it was really bad money in the car trade and the boat job. So a couple of guys I was working for both happened to lose their license in the space of a month or so, and I was labouring on them. So I got to drive them around, and I instantly doubled my wages. So this is good, you know. I can afford to go and do a lot more racing off Ireland, and that's how that happened. And then by the late 80s, when I won my first TT on Eric Brigazzi's TZ750 Yamaha, and things changed to Formula 2 in the space of 10 months. We had 10 months notice to go to Formula 2 spec. Not long after that, I thought, I've got to start building my own bikes.
Just for the sake of the listeners, just explain that a little bit.
And me.
Going from the open class to the Formula 2.
It was a tough time for a lot of
the difference in the specs, really, of the machines, you know.
I think there was getting on for 100 competitors then. Yeah. Sidecars.
Oh, wow.
Like the most I remember was 1988, 108 starters, and 89 was a little less than that. But the sidecars were going through a tough time of changeover. You can imagine the TZ750 two-stroke engine was the thing to use for about 15 years. Then Japanese stopped making parts, so aftermarket bits were getting made, so they got real expensive. And Formula 2 had been going for about 5 years in the UK, and at the TT as a subclass.
And Formula 2 is
352 strokes at that time.
Yep.
Like TZ350 engine, twin cylinder. So 89 came, and it was a pretty rough year for accidents, things like that. And a lot of it was down to machine failure. You know, these bikes were designed for lightweight two-strokes. People were putting big GS XR 1100s in and stuff like that, and they were just, the frames couldn't cope with it. Mm-hmm. So the ACU did the right thing and just said, this has got to stop. We've got to have a new format if sidecars are going to be here.
So the open class was literally any engine?
Up to at that time, it was either 1100cc or 1300cc.
And those were the much bigger and longer
long wheelbase bikes.
Like the ones I remember Steve Webster used to ride.
You could ride one
was
there
that one
if
of
you
those?
wanted at the TT, but they weren't suitable. So there was a tubular version made with conventional steering. I actually had one, and it was a damn good bike. But there was so many varieties of mongrel bikes, for want of a better word. They were really bad. And so by July, the ACU made an announcement, said, right, next year's TT, for sidecars to go ahead, they're going to have to be Formula 2. but they introduced the 600cc engine in, and nobody had used one at that time.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the old jelly mold Hondas and the FZ 750s and GPZ 600 Kawasaki.
Yeah.
They were pretty primitive engines. They weren't proper sports engine. And so some chose them engines, some went with the 350. I went with the 350 and crashed it after about 3 practice laps, and ended up with no start that year. Cool. But it was a big changeover, and it was all for the better. But within 6 years, I set the first 110 lap and broke the open class lap record. So the whole idea of trying to slow it down and make it safer, it had no real effect. It just evolved, and then
you just got faster anyway.
Faster
was that because these bikes are shorter wheelbase, they handle a lot better?
Well, no, it was just the 600 engine became a better lump.
Right.
You know, it just went, it escalated really fast.
Development even on road bikes then was really fast. And,
exactly, yeah.
I think things moved on really, really quickly. Yeah.
So that was a long-winded answer to your question.
It was always in the blood to go and do sidecar racing then?
Oh, yeah. Well,
is this from a family thing then?
Yeah, my dad raced from when I was 2 years old.
Right.
So all I can ever remember was having a trike with a plank of wood lay beside it, making silly bike noises, leaning over it and everything.
And just, never no interest in two wheels? In
the only interest I ever had in two wheels, there was a local guy called Graeme Cannell. He was probably, I have to say this because I believe it, I think he was the most talented solo rider that ever came out of the Isle of Man. He didn't realise his own talent was his problem. And he won the European Pro-Am Championship, he won the British Pro-Am Championship. This is in the early 80s. He won the Manx Grand Prix, podiumed at the TT. And I worked for Graeme for a few years in the car body shop, and had the good fortune to go with him to UK circuits when he was doing like British Championship and all that. And I was just like a gopher, you know, go and take the wheels down, get change tyres, Dave, and keep bikes clean. And
what age was you then?
18, 19,
yep.
And he had the best bikes. He'd bust his gut to have the best bikes. So we'd be sat in the body shop, it'd be a bit quiet, and he'd go, "Well, we're racing this weekend, Dave, so tell you what, why don't you nip down Derby Airfield and just bed my bikes in for me?" I'd go down on my own, and you could let yourself in them days. Go up and down the runway, and I'm like Freddie Spencer. I'm going for it and hanging off, and nobody else can see me. But on the best bikes, TZ 250, 350, Armstrong, 250 Armstrong, I'm freaking ripping up and down like a freaking lunatic. And then after an hour, I put them in the back of the van, come back to the workshop. All done, Dave? Yeah, all done. Right, we'll head to the ferry in the morning, and off we go. And Donington Gold Cup events, all real good events. Sure. Yeah.
And that never gave you...
I tell you a funny story. In the 1982 TT, Graeme, he was that was his peak really. He was third in 350 race, I think, and something like that. But Dale Singleton came to the Isle of Man that year, and he'd just won Daytona. And anyway, he had a TZ 500 factory bike delivered to Graham's farm, where he had the body shop in an old converted barn. But the organisers just said to Dale, get in touch with Graeme, get the bikes sent there, and then you can collect them from there and do your thing. Anyway, Dale Singleton said to me at the end of practice week, he said, "Hey kid, I've been watching you, how you look after Graham's bikes, and they're immaculate. They're absolutely immaculate. I need somebody like you to come do the European Grand Prix."
Cool.
So I said, "Oh, right." And he goes, "How much do you earn?" I said, "Well, I'm on 50 quid a week." "Well, I'll give you 50 quid a week, but you'll not spend it because I'll cover all costs of everything. It'll be hotels, and just want you to do what you do on Graham's bikes." I said, "How long will that take? How long will it take me on up to?" And he said, "Well, about September." And I just thought, I'll have to think about this. And next day I turned it down because I'd just won my first club event on the Sidecar.
And
I thought, I can be all right at this. And so I turned it down. Now, I don't regret it, but it's the nearest thing to a regret that I'll probably ever have. Because that was rubbing shoulders with Barry Sheen and all the people I looked up to. Cause
a great era as well.
And Singleton, he was a character, a proper good character, and so I came close to being a top sort of gopher at Grand Prix. Would have been great fun.
So your career could have gone in a totally different direction.
Could have gone in a totally different direction, but I do know something. Back to about solos. If I'd ridden solos, I'd have hurt myself an awful lot. Sidecars with the stabiliser are a lot easier.
I think most sidecar drivers would be handy on a bike, though, right?
You would think so, just with the feel. And,
sidecar passengers probably make a better solo rider, and I think it's just that sense of balance and moving.
Right.
When you went on with Birchall on the side of the bike, you must have noticed that being a good solo rider, the balance thing, the movement thing. Maybe not so much all sidecar drivers have got that. They're a bit more car orientated, and
it's so different. Obviously, when I went round with Ben, because obviously there's no suspension travel hardly, so you don't get the feel like you do on a solo, but you still get a general feel. You know? Yeah.
I seen something on telly there the other day. It was a YouTube thing with Lewis Hamilton and Valentino Rossi.
Yeah.
So Lewis is out on, I think it was an R1, and he's going around in some Spanish circuit, and it was dead interesting. Lewis said to Valentino the next day, he said, "I love left-handers, but I don't like right-handers." And this shocked me. Rossi said, "We're all like that."
Yep.
And I didn't even think about that. 42 years of racing, I've never thought that solo riders favour one corner for another. Because I used to be, when I tested Graeme's bikes, I used to be exactly the same. I'd be shit round a right-hander and good round a left for some reason.
Why is that?
And most short circuits
is it to do with you?
Are right-handers, really.
Clockwise, yeah.
I'm not sure, because I come from, I was the same, but I always put it down to, I come from Speedway.
Right.
That was my passion, and I dabbled at Speedway when I was younger.
Yeah. So you like left-handers?
So it's ovals,
Like Nicky Hayden?
Yeah, well, many riders, Yeah, he was phenomenal on the short track, obviously, which is big, flat track, which is big in the States. But but it just feels more natural. I think you're as fast probably on the right-handers, but it just feels more natural and easier on the left.
In terms of body position. Yeah. So what about in a sidecar then? Do you have a preference to one way or the other? Because obviously, like the passenger has to lean one way or the other.
It depends what the passenger is like.
Right.
It depends how you've got your bike set up. As to, like, my favourite bike of all time, over and above my own bikes, was a Windle chassis way back in the mid-80s.
Cool.
And it was a mare round a right-hander. It shook and it bulked, and it was like riding a Buck and Bronco, every right-hander. But you can force a sidecar through a right-hander. It can handle terrible, but you can get it through just as quick as a good handling one. But the left-handers are totally different. And this thing went round a left-hander like a damn go-kart. It was a whip round anything. And I could go round the outside of bikes anywhere and no problem. And that is good. If you can get a sidecar with a left-hand chair, of course, to go round a left-hander nice, that's brilliant.
So that leads me on to my next question then. Why are sidecars built the way they are? Why is that sidecar seat in the left? Is there a reason for it or not?
Honestly, no. But I often thought about this and wondered if back in the post-war.
This is a guess. Like I just said, most short circuits are predominantly right-handers.
Yeah, but all the Continental bikes had the sidecar on the right-hand side.
Did they?
Oh yeah. If you look back to the post-war and then right through to, let's say, the 70s, all the Germans and the Swiss and the great riders like Prometheus and Shoutsu and Enders and all of them, all their bikes were built with the sidecar on the right. On the right.
Cool.
So maybe I wondered if their circuits were left-hand circuits. Maybe a lot of them. So
is there a rule that stipulates it has to be on the left?
No.
There you go. That could be your little thing for next year.
Don't. I told you.
We'll get onto that KTM thing in a little while. I know it's probably like kids. You're not supposed to have a favourite kid, but throughout your career, you've gone through a fair amount of passengers.
Yeah.
Do you have one passenger that you kind of would have liked to have seen all the way through your career, or does everybody kind of get up to speed and they're similar?
It's a funny thing.
I don't want you to pick a favourite, but
passengers
if you have
are
got
like,
a favourite,
I do.
All right, screw it.
Shed a bit of dirt.
All right. Who's your favourite passenger?
Come on, you're a straight talker.
Passengers like marriages, and they go wrong. And I told you don't mention marriages, but
Is that what you tell the wife? You're just a passenger.
for God's sake. Well, let's see. It seems to run its course, and the worst thing for a passenger is, particularly in the modern era, they have to be extremely athletic. I say that's a terrible thing to say, because I read an article of the 1977 TT was the only time the sidecars had 4 laps with a compulsory pit stop. That must have been pretty hairy. My dad was in that race. But all the lead passengers said that it was 1 lap too many. And physically they were exhausted, and passengers did fall out on the last lap. They were just Ramsey hairpin. I think they were probably saying, I'm getting out. Pick the slowest corner and have a roll out. But no, I think a passenger will probably have maybe up to 40 years old, if they're damn fit as well, would be pretty pushing the boat out. And most of the passengers I've had that have got near that age have started saying, you might want to look for somebody else, Dave. I'm feeling this a bit.
Yeah.
Peter Hill was a great example. He was a fantastic passenger, the first guy to do the 110 mile an hour lap as a passenger with me. And that year he said, that's on another level. I don't think I can do that no more. And I dismissed it because he was that good. He was that good. But I think he didn't do another TT.
Cool.
He didn't. He did World Championships, but not another TT. Yeah. And that was about 37, I think he was then. And so, unfortunately, I think there is like
a shelf life to
it. Shelf life, yeah. Whereas the boys riding them like myself and Holden, and even Reeves is cracking 50 now, and boys like that. It's an easier thing if you keep fit and healthy. And your eyes on.
Yeah. So it's not down to like you either falling out with them for not being good enough.
I've had plenty of that.
Oh, have you?
I've had stacks of that.
Here we go then.
Steve wants dirt. God damn. But no, I wouldn't dish dirt. But I've had they've all been good passengers. I haven't had a bad passenger. Never. And
have you ever had to tell one that you're not quite up to speed with me?
Yeah. Yeah. But they've been exceptional on short circuits and maybe got to a road and gone, this is just, whoa.
Yeah.
And that's normal. That's normal. The best passengers, it'll blow their mind that first lap of practice. It does.
What's the biggest difference on 3 wheels from short circuit to the Isle of Man TT?
Just the out and out top speed and the bumps. Them 2 things by the time you get to the bottom Bray Hill, you're going 30 mile an hour quicker than you'll do on pretty much any short circuit in the UK.
Yeah.
And we haven't got another circuit now where we're going to exceed anything like 140. That's about it. So
what are we topping out here at then?
I'm sure Birchall's reached 170. Mine's done 100. I did 162 on my Yamaha that was funny because 2019 TT, it's the fastest my GPS has ever shown. It was going down Highlander in towards Greeba Castle.
Yep.
And GPS was 162. Every lap, it was dead consistent, but it wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel particularly comfortable. The bike was weaving. I had to sit in the middle of the road because it was just like a metre
like tracking
weaving.
the road.
Yeah, it was just not comfy. And that could be a bit of age creeping in there, Steve. My God, hate to admit it. But no, I didn't feel comfy, but it was fast. And the only other circuits we used to get up to similar speeds was the Ulster Grand Prix, which I was lucky enough to do once in 1995. And I won that race, which was great, but I never went back. That was that.
Flipping heck.
Yeah. It's an extremely fast place, and we just don't get anywhere like it. And so it does blow you away a bit, that first lap. And
just chipping back to that, the Ulster, what was that like being obviously on a road circuit?
Yeah.
A very fast one,
of
course. But a mass start.
Yeah.
How is that for us? Because obviously Sidecars.
It was hairy. I'll tell you about that. I didn't go to the Ulster Grand Prix when I could have went lots of times, but my father and the guy he raced with were both killed there racing in 1977, 45 years ago yesterday.
Cool.
Yeah. And so I didn't go, but Billy Nutt, who you remember, was promoter. Billy rang me up and just said, Dave, I know you've not been keen on the Ulster. And I just said, no, hang on, I'll correct you. It's not I haven't been keen. I just haven't thought about it. It's not been I'm against it or anything. He said, well, I'm glad you said that because we're really trying to get a good sidecar grid together. Will you come and ride? And I just went, well, it's bloody expensive and I'm near the end of my European Championship run and all my eggs are in one basket with that. He said, well, I'm hoping you'll come and ride that bike here, which was a 500 two-stroke Krauser Yamaha. Beautiful, in a really super lightweight chassis I'd built.
Yeah.
And I was doing well at Europeans, top 3 all time and pole positions and things like that. It was a real good bike and really good to be involved in the European circuit. So Billy said, right, I'll give you £1,000 to come. There's £1,000 for the win and I'm sure you'll win it. But he said, I'll tell you now, if you'll just go out and practice, if you don't like it and you don't want to be here, I'll give you £1,000 and you can go home. How's that? And I said, well, go on then, I can't turn that down. So I went there and an old friend of mine on the island had a friend on the Dundrod circuit who was a retired policeman. And he said, you can go and stay with him. He's got several spare rooms. So we turned up the night before practice started. And he said, have you got a car to go and learn the circuit? And I said, well, no, I've only got my van and my truck at the time. He said, well, I've got a car in the garage, you can take it. Here's the keys. He gave me these keys and I thought, these look like something out of a bloody old Mini or something, a really old dodgy set of keys. So goes in, opens the garage, it was a Morris Minor. Was it? And it had flick out indicators on the side. Yeah. So I said, come on boys, let's go for a rip in this. Cross-ply tyres that squealed every time you just made a slight turn. Well, off we went. And we did about 3 laps and the bloody thing started to knock and clank the engine. It did a big end.
Did it?
I did. I put it in the garage. I didn't say a thing. I just put it in the give him the keys back. He said, did you get a few laps? I said, I got 3. And anyway, the next day we went out. I didn't do any more practice laps in a car or anything, obviously, but went out and on the 4th lap of practice, I qualified pole.
God, flipping heck.
And just took to it.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah.
And it was a fast average lap, over 110. It was a fast average lap, about similar to the 125s probably.
Yeah.
And I won the race. Yeah, won the race. So picked up another grand.
Good earner as well.
Yeah, a couple of grand on the hip.
Did you actually experience any of the mass start itself then, or were you on pole and you just went off and you didn't see anyone? Yeah,
it went off in 2 waves. So we caught back markers but it was all right. It was all right. It was a great sidecar circuit. Yeah. And but there were several accidents after that year, which led to the organisers saying we don't think we'll have sidecars here anymore.
Demise of the class,
which was sad, but they had the reasons.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
I mean, we've barely scratched the surface. I feel like this is where we should end part 1 and then pick up in part 2 and move forward a little bit to TT 2022 and obviously beyond as well. Dave, join us in part 2.
Cheers.